What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this week and every week, his disciples lead him in, and he just does the rest. It's Dezrah.
That I do. And sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we dip into the PSVR archive. We blow the dust off an old PlayStation VR game, we check into it, see if it's been given any love by the developers, any DLC, any updates, and then we let you know if it's worth your time. That being said, what game did we decide to play this week, Dezrah?
We decided to play, Pinball FX2
VR.
I knew I was gonna come up short.
Yeah.
Pinball VX2. Oh my god. Pinball FX2 VR.
This is a major problem with this game. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say the name correctly, including myself.
Mm-hmm.
Pinball FX2 VR by Zen Studios. Yes, the makers of Zen Pinball and Pinball FX3.
Yes, and one.
And yes, other pinball games. Released November 29th, 2016, for $14.99.
Ooh.
I think before we get too far into this,
Yes,
we need to really start specifying something very quickly. And
okay.
that's that if you pay this $14.99,
yes,
you're getting 3 pinball tables.
3 pinball tables.
Right.
Yes.
You're getting Secrets of the Deep,
Mm-hmm.
Mars, and Epic Quest.
Yes.
It seems very limited.
It is, and it's something you wrestle with, but then again, I don't know. It's like you only get 3 levels, but I think we need to, before we even talk about that, we need to talk about the special nature of pinball.
Yeah,
pinball is a different kind of game. Like it's an arcadey game where your point is to get a higher scores, and the Pinball FX games, the series, like their tables are. Well, virtual table. Even before virtual reality, there were virtual tables. So you could do things in these games that you can't do in a physical game. The
Right.
game can change. Things can move and change as you progress. So it's not quite the same value proposition as saying, oh, here is a platformer that only has 3 levels.
this is true.
It's something different. Which isn't to say that I don't think, only 3 tables for $15 isn't a ripoff. But
Pinball does seem to be a platform in which the more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
yes.
I personally, my background in pinball is pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
There was, I want to say, an Addams Family pinball machine.
That is an amazing machine.
Was that at Vincent's? There's a bar I used to go to right before I was 21.
I would have no idea.
And so this is one of my favorite bars in town, called Vincent's. I'm pretty sure I used to be the first one there, because why wouldn't I be, right? And so I'd grab a pitcher of beer and I'd play. I want to say it was the Addams Family pinball machine. I was the only pinball machine they had.
Addams Family Values.
Oh, was that it?
Yep.
That makes way more sense. And I would just play that and have no idea what I was doing, because all I'm trying to do is hit the flippers.
Yeah.
And not let the ball go down the hole. But man, that's the problem with pinball for me. Is you could give me 100 tables, and what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to play one for like 5 minutes, and then go check out another one for 5 minutes, and go check out another one for 5 minutes, and go, look how cool these look, but then never learn the tables.
Right.
And so today, when I was preparing for this show, I took an alternate route.
Okay.
And I just sat and played each table for a very long time and tried to learn each one.
Yeah.
And these are some deep tables.
They really are. And I mean, they're definitely on a spectrum. There are a couple that either they're not as deep as the other, or the depth is very well hidden. But there are some that are really just, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in an overwhelming way. I think in general, the tables are pretty well designed. Do we have to explain what pinball is?
No.
Okay, we don't. All right.
No. If we do, then that's what Wikipedia is for.
Yeah.
But I think we should maybe back up a little bit.
Sure.
When you first download this game, you download the $15 core game, Pinball FX2 VR. You start the game up, and it basically puts you in this really swanky apartment, I guess. I mean, I don't even know.
It reminded me of one of the media players. There's all like the VR movie.
Right.
There was one of them, and I it was killing me the whole time. But there's one of them that the living room looked almost exactly the same way, just all like mid-century, light wood paneling,
crazy modern, in
yes,
terms of like minimalistic design.
Yes, yeah.
These huge windows with an amazing view. So So they throw you into this lobby, and you look around, and it's all done by head tracking.
Yes.
There's only a couple spots you can jump to. Obviously, there's like the couch where you're looking at the television screen where you got all your settings available, and then you can jump over to your right, and that's where all of your trophies are displayed on a little panel on the wall, and then you can go check out the leaderboards.
Right.
And that's kind of it. But other than that, there's 3 pinball machines, kind of just here, and here.
Right.
Which is fine if you've only bought the core game.
Yeah.
But if you bought all the tables, there's a little part of me that goes, this isn't doing the trick for me. This is my getaway, my man cave, my place to play pinball. I want like all the tables like lined up in a row with all the lights blinking and all turned on at the same time.
Absolutely. And there's another weird thing too, where so you have the 3 tables there, and you look at the table, and you can kind of like pan through all the other tables that are there.
L1 and R1,
right.
You can flip through them.
But you also, if you go down to your main screen there, you can choose which tables are those 3 on display.
Right.
That doesn't really matter, because you can look at any one of those 3 and just scan through. So really, if there aren't all of them, why is there more than one?
Also true. Well, So I guess my initial disappointment wore off a little bit when I saw how minimalistic the room was and how I wanted to see all my tables.
Yep.
The moment you actually select a table,
Yep.
and it teleports you right there, like standing, kind of hovering over it as you would, everything changes. Those big giant windows, the view outside the window changes depending on what game you're playing.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, if you're playing the Back to the Future game, you see whatever the Oh, great. I was going to reference it.
Save the Clock Tower.
Yeah, Save the Clock Tower. But I think it had a...
Save Ferris.
Did it have a name to it? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
No, I think that... Well, there is an official name for it, but the flyers all just say Save the Clock Tower.
Perfect.
And I know it's the Twin Pines Mall.
Jeez. Yep. See, this is why we keep you here. And then there's like E.T., and it's like the classic kind of like, pine tree setting. And so whatever one you pick... The Walking Dead one specifically is great because it's just like the zombie apocalypse is happening outside.
We should clarify, though, none of the tables Brian just mentioned are actually part of the base game.
We're getting to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everything changes. And I think this is the great thing about a VR pinball video game. And that's that not only do we get to change what's happening outside the window, just to add a little atmosphere, but also the lighting in the room changes.
Yes.
You're playing the Jaws one, and suddenly you realize that you're standing on this wooden plank in like kind of on the water. It's like, so you're still in the room. If you look around, the room is still there, but like just your immediate surroundings have changed to reflect the game that you're playing. And then there's like, it gets even better. You're playing the paranormal one. There's a snake coming out.
That's not a snake. That's Nessie.
That's the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, it's the Loch Ness Monster.
And there's sirens on our end, of course.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't even put two and two together.
Yeah, and there's like, the planes flying by, and this is kind of swiping at the planes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like the environment is immersive, and there are times where they are nice when they could have been awful. Like, not necessarily Jaws, but in the Secrets of the Deep, there are sharks that come around and they attack stuff that's near you. And there's one that kind of comes close to the table, but they could have absolutely just had the thing jump out and grab you while you're trying to play. So the background stuff is there. It is cool to look at, but it's not like super distracting.
Right. I think it gets borderline distracting.
Oh yeah.
So there's definitely some with like UFOs and stuff that fly right past your face.
Yes.
And when you're focused on, when it's just you in the game and like you've got multi-ball going on and you just like if something flies by your face, I'm sure you'll see in the footage every so often my head goes boom. Well, yeah. Like, no, it's not the time to be distracted.
Yeah.
But I think it's all part of the experience, and it's sort of like, why do it in VR if you're not going to take full advantage of VR?
Well, I think that's why do it in VR is a really important question, because honestly, this is one of the games I was kind of dreading doing. I know it was on the list. We were going to have to hit it at some point.
You're welcome, Dylan.
Yeah. But for me, there have been plenty of computer game pinball games.
Yeah.
There was that one that came with Windows. There was like Windows 98.
There was a Tristan one that I played the crap out of back in way before 98, like Windows 3.1 or something.
And then, of course, let's not forget, like Pinball FX has a huge life outside of VR. Of course, it's been out for Windows, been out for Xbox, etc. But for me, like I do love pinball games. Like if I go to an arcade, if either I'm doing a shooter, I want to do some pinball games. And Addams Family Values of excellent taste. That is a great table. The Star Trek Next Generation one was another classic.
I've seen that one.
I do have a new favorite. The Batman 66 is pretty fantastic as well.
Never seen it.
I think it's a fairly new one, actually.
Okay.
But for me, it's like there's a physicality to like actually, feeling the weight of the ball on the paddles, whatever the triggers. Flippers. Yes, flippers. That I was is always missing in flat versions of it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh well, now I get to have this whole same disappointing experience in VR. And I tell you, like there is a physicality to the tables in this VR version that is lacking in flat versions, which I know seems fairly obvious, but it really, if you're like me and was a little snobbish about this, I think it's worth checking out just for that fact. It definitely adds this sense of presence, of it really being there, and you do have that very cool thing, like we've said with Moss and other games with this sort of detailed, like you can put your face right down on the table and look at all the small little details on the boards.
Yeah, I think we've said as ad nauseum since the beginning of PSVR. That there is a certain sacrifice you make. You use a certain graphical fidelity, resolution that you sacrifice. The other side. And I think Zen Pinball specifically was such a great example of pinball done right on a flat screen. So it was always super high resolution. The lighting and effects were amazing. But so pulling that off of a 2D screen and going into VR, you sacrifice all the things that made it great, except there's this sense that you're really there hovering over a pinball table.
Yep.
And as much as I regret the loss of the resolution, it's still a beautiful looking game. Like when you look down and see all the details, and when you're playing the game, to be able to see the depth of each of the corridors and see each of those lights pop up and see the scores like in almost comic book fashion like pop off of the table and everything that they do with like the dot matrix display when you look up and you see the things happening up there when there are mini games that just pop up in front of you that are totally separate from the table. These are all things that work so great in VR that I'm happily willing to sacrifice that that super high 4K resolution to be able to feel like I'm actually in a pinball arcade.
Yeah, I will. That was the question I was gonna have for you. Was like, did the Pro have the same issues as the regular version? I guess that answers my question. It doesn't really get in the way of the gameplay very often. Every once in a while, the stuff at the very far end of the table, you're like not quite sure what that readout said.
It's been a while since I played the original version, so I can't speak like 100% on this. But man, I was playing today, and I was prepared for a resolution loss that I kind of didn't see. It looks beautiful on the Pro, but I don't remember it being a huge difference on the OG.
Yeah, it's a little muddy in some places. I'm not going to lie, but it does the physics, and not just the physics of the ball, but actually like the shading and the lighting and the shadows. Like everything works like it would in a real game. There are, I think, Epic Quest. Epic Quest, that's on that table. It turns to nighttime at some point, and just all the shadows and everything. It really works nicely. I mean, it is an excellent simulator. One thing I do have to ding it for, like you said, like learning the tables is really tough. And one of the things you need to be able to do to learn tables is to be able to read the screen while you're playing. Yeah. Which is difficult enough in the real world. But there's one thing that happens in VR that we don't talk about too often because we just kind of accepted it. There's a tunnel vision aspect to wearing a VR headset. Yeah. You're so used to being able to see, I can look and I can see the whole world. You forget that you do have kind of a tunnel vision view into that world. And in most games, that's something your brain just learns to ignore. Because in pinball, you're super focused on the balls here. You need that peripheral to be able to see what the board is doing at the same time, but you don't have that anymore because you have the headset on. So you actually have to look away from the ball, from the flippers, to be able to see what's going on there in a way that you don't have to do in the real world. So it makes it a little more difficult.
I did find myself having to sort of retrain myself because that was something. Every so often the ball would stop moving, it would get locked somewhere, and I'd go, oh right, there's actually a message up here on the dot matrix display telling me that there's some kind of input required from me.
Right, and in the real world you can just kind of flick your eyes up and flick back and be all right, but you do have to kind of move the whole headset up to read it. So
right,
I'm not saying it's game breaking, but it is something to keep in mind.
No, for sure. I guess we didn't even really address that. There's a part of me that when I started this game up today, I was like, do I need my move controllers? Because in my head, I was picturing two hands like on the side, and to be able to like jostle the machine.
Yeah.
Is there a technical term for hitting it? Obviously, tilting is what happens when you hit it too much.
Right.
So in my head, that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
I'm glad it doesn't support the moves. Otherwise, I'd be falling over a virtual table, like trying to lean on it, because that's kind of what you do in pinball is become one with the table.
There is one button we definitely need to talk about, though, because if you hit it accidentally while you're playing, it's a little disorienting. The square button will reset your view.
Oh, I didn't even accidentally do that.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Just like with every game, if you hit the options button, hold that down, it will reset. Okay. But if you just lightly tap the square button, it'll reset immediately.
Okay.
Which, if your body position or whatever has changed at all since you started playing, it can be very disorienting and really mess with you a little bit. It's not, again, I don't, not like going to make you sick disorienting, but suddenly the table was here, now it's down here, and
right. Your hand shouldn't be near the square button, by the way, because they should be on. Right. It should be on the triggers, and it should be on the left analog stick, because the left analog stick is the one that'll hit the pinball machine.
Or X also for launching.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot.
And for interacting with the some of the mini games.
Right. Yeah, I'm bad at actually pushing the machine around.
Okay.
I very frequently the ball will just go right between the flippers. Yeah. It'll bounce like into the corner on the left, chamber on the left. There's definitely pinball terms I should have looked up before starting this episode.
But they'll let us know.
Oh no, they will. But also I want to make it clear that I'm no pinball expert.
Yeah.
I absolutely love exploring these games and getting into them and figuring them out. But man, like pinball has always been sort of, I play video games. Oh, and if there's a pinball machine around, I'll give it a shot. Mm-hmm. Like it's never been like my focus. So I don't mind being very transparent about that. I think maybe we should get into the DLC.
Okay.
Because the DLC is, I think, what sort of makes Pinball FX2 VR and sort of all of Zen pinball games. Because
it certainly makes their business model.
It certainly does. So you do get, so we've already said you get Secrets of the Deep, Mars, and Epic Quest, which are 3 solid tables. You get those for the $15.
I think Secrets of the Deep may be one of my favorites of the entire game.
It's really good.
It's very, there's a lot of variety in like the physicality of the game, a lot of different ramps and things like that, where some of the other games don't necessarily have that. And I think out of all of them, it's one of the easier to sort of learn.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not dumbed down. Like it's very, what you need to do is laid out very clearly. Achieving that is a little more difficult, but
and so that the game came out November 29th. We're talking like just outside of the launch window here. Mm-hmm. So this Pinball FX2 has been out for quite a while. On the same day, on November 29th, 2016, we also got one table for $6. The Walking Dead Telltale edition. So if you like Clementine and that whole story there, that's a separate table. That's $6. And then there's Season 1 pack, which also came out on the same day, November 29th, for $25. This includes 5 tables: Castle Storm, Wild West Rampage, Biolab, Paranormal, and Earth Defense.
So they're ballparking like $5 a table. Seems to be what they think is fair to charge.
So far.
Yeah.
So far. And then there's the most recent update, which was, almost a full 2 years later, released on June 26, 2018, was the Universal Classics Pinball,
right? Which
give us 3 tables for $20. And I think you'll very quickly find out why these are more expensive, and it's because this is Jaws, E.T., and Back to the Future. So obviously somebody's paying royalties somewhere.
Yeah, they're paying royalties for the name and the usage, but not the voice talent.
No, I was actually surprised. I've heard better Marty McFlys in my life. Yeah, I've heard better every voiceover in my life.
Well, honestly,
they're not bad. I just
the Marty I could deal with, because every once in a while I was like, oh, he nailed it. The Doc,
Yeah.
The dock, like here's a tip. If you're going for someone who has such a unique vocal style as Christopher Lloyd, just don't. Just it would be very easy to not have his voice in the game.
Yeah.
Because having it that bad was immediately like just taking me out of the game.
You thought it was that bad?
It was awful.
Oh wow.
I mean, it was like me trying to do a Christopher Lloyd impression.
Wow.
Yeah. It was.
See, I actually thought, even though I don't think anybody nailed anything, I actually thought they were fine. You know, they were good enough. You know, they were getting the point across.
I think the rest of them were. I was like E.T. I mean, they sounded like the kids. That's fine.
Yeah.
And actually, the Quint from Jaws was pretty good, honestly. But the Christopher Lloyd, the doc was.
Right on.
Wow.
And I do have to say that, I mean, just because these are such classic, classic franchises and movies that I grew up with personally, I'm sure everyone grew up with them of our age. These are some of my favorite ones. Just a lot of love put into them.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing better than seeing a DeLorean fly past your face, at 88 miles an hour.
Yeah. And you get the multi-ball, and the balls are actually on fire as they're going through the thing. Yeah.
Right, just like the tire tracks. Like, it's very, very cool. And to be able to, start selecting which year you want to go to.
Yeah.
It all really works out really well for me. Strangely enough, I think Paranormal is definitely a classic. And then The Walking Dead. I love the Telltale series.
Yeah.
I played through the first couple seasons, and seeing Clementine on one side and seeing a zombie on the other side of the machine, and having her cower in fear, and having him reach over the table when you fail, like it all really just goes very well together. And it makes you you've always kind of wanted to protect Clementine, and if you can now, you can do it in pinball form. It just works out really well.
Is that going to be the pull quote for the box?
Probably. I think we're 2 years too late for the box quote.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure Ryan from the VR Grid is already on it though. And so that's kind of it. We're looking at $65 if you want all. How many tables? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 tables.
12 tables for $65. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing we should point out too. That sounds like, oh hey, that's a lot of tables. But actually, so
does it sound like a lot of tables?
Well, I mean, I guess
maybe
not for $65,
right?
But
for people familiar with Pinball FX series.
Well, and here's what I was going to say. I've got the Wikipedia pulled up here. By my count, there is definitely over 80, just shy of 100 different tables. Everything from Star Wars to Marvel properties to Archer, Family Guy, Elder Scrolls, you name it. And as far as we know, and I can see my research, there is no interest or anything about getting those released or ported to VR.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue. It was so much fun when I was playing Zen Pinball, and just seemingly had a table for everything.
Yeah,
and they were a few bucks here, a few bucks there, and you could just kind of buy them. They were packed, but I remember buying some separate ones too. Yeah. It just didn't seem like that big of a deal, and there were just so many of them.
Granted, importing them into VR is going to be a little different, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
You do have to re-render everything, and of course, if they keep with the extra animations and the stuff going on in the room, that's going to be some extra work.
So much extra work. So keep that in mind. If you do have any old Zen pinball games, or if you have FX3 and you're thinking that you can just bring those tables into VR, even though some of them are the same tables, you can't. This is seems to be the only Zen pinball game that is not compatible with the other ones.
Correct.
So what do you think? Do we need to rate this sucker?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, what's our rating scale?
All right, so our rating scale is pretty easy to understand. 1 is yes, you absolutely have to buy this game. If you have a PSVR, it's just a shining example of medium. You need this in your library. 2 is, yeah, sure, why not? If it's a genre you particularly like, or if it's on sale at a decent price, go ahead, pick it up. We're not going to make fun of you. Well, we wouldn't anyways.
I would.
And all right, he would.
Make fun of everybody.
And 3 is no. We need to vote with our wallets and tell developers that we deserve better. Friends don't let friends buy crap, man. All right, so 1, 2, or 3. What do you think?
This might be the most convoluted score I've ever given a game yet in all of our however many episodes we've done.
All right, hit me.
I'm going to give the core game, the core Pinball FX2 VR, the $15 title.
Yep.
I'm going to give it a 1.
A 1?
Right,
okay.
Because even if you're the most casual of pinball fans, I think you're going to be shocked by how cool this is, by how great it looks in the headset, by how much fun it is, by how addictive it is, and just it's so hard to stop playing a game. I got so disappointed every single time a game ended. I wrestled with the idea of staying on that table or moving to a different one, and I would just stop every so often and look around and go and just admire the detail in not only the lobby but also with the lighting and the stuff that they did around the table outside. It feels like they paid so much attention to this, and I think Zen is. We talk about Servios being, the PSVR superstar developer. Yeah. But I think Zen has been like sort of the underrated superstar developer all this time. They put a lot of love into everything they do. They published Out of Ammo, unfortunately, and that sort of ruined that statement for me. But at least they didn't develop it. Sorry, Out of Ammo people. So for the core, for $15, no brainer. Heads up, it's often on sale, and in fact, if you're watching this episode the day it comes out,
it's still on sale
for like $6, I think.
Yes, it was $6.
So like 70% off.
Yeah.
But it goes on sale frequently. Check out psprices.com. You'll see that there are sales going on. The rest of my rating is a 2, and that the 2 goes for all the DLC. Because when you start adding things up and going $65 for 12 tables, it's just too much money. It's just too much to say, hey, you know what, for pinball's awesome, but just for some more tables, despite the fact that they're all amazing, if you weren't sort of picking these up as they came out and like and making it seem like small incremental purchases, then $65 is a huge load of money to drop all at once.
Yeah.
So I think the rest of it, for me, I say buy the initial core pack for $15 because that's super cheap, and it gets you in nice and easy. But the rest of these, as good as they are, just hold off and say, hey, you know what? Like I'm gonna take my time and buy these as they go on sale, and show my support for Pinball FX2 VR. And eventually you'll have them all. Again, check PS prices. You'll see that they all do go on sale on occasion. Yeah. But really, overall, one of my favorites. This is great.
I think for me, I'm going to be a little less convoluted, but kind of agree. I think it's a 2. I think because, for me, a 2 is if a genre you particularly like or if it goes on sale, And I think this is, for me, like the definition of a 2. If you don't like pinball, there is literally no reason to pick this up. I mean, it's cool to have pinball in the real world, I mean, in VR, but if you don't like pinball in the real world at all, there's not enough novelty factor to make it worth dropping the $15 on it, in my opinion.
I want to talk to these people who aren't fans of pinball. What is going on in your life? What happened to you as a child that we need to figure out together? Lay down on the couch, young man.
Show me on the flipper where the man touched you.
Whoa, you just took that to him. The amount of things I've edited out of this show.
Anywho, but yeah, I mean, it is really good, and as like I was pleasantly surprised by how good it was to play pinball in VR. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. I can totally agree. Like $65, that's a lot of money. But again, pinball is a different kind of animal. You can get many, 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 many hours of fun out of one good table. So. If it's weird if you say, hey, here's a $65 paintball game. No. But if you say, oh, it only averages out to be about $6 a table, then that starts to feel a little more okay. And if it's on sale, then you can make it,
Right.
So I'm going to totally agree with Brian. Pick up, if you're watching this now, pick up the base on sale and just kind of keep your eyes out for when the add-ons go on sale.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just, I hate pinball, well, yeah, don't waste your time.
Yeah, if you already hate pinball, you probably stopped watching this a long time ago. Right. just guessing.
Yeah.
All right, I think that does it for another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. As always, we're curious to know what you thought of Pinball FX2 VR.
Well, you, but not you.
Well, I mean, it depends. Has been.
Oh, you know what you did.
Okay, just as long as you know. We want to know what you thought of it. Also, we also want to know what other games you want us to talk about. The list is long. It keeps getting longer. There's no way we're getting to all of them. It's just a thing. So, that being said, for another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Dez.
And we'll see you next week.